Hello and welcome to Ziflow's Winter 2024 product release webinar. As I mentioned, I'm the head in the bubble, the guy with the beard. I'm Erik. I head product marketing here at Ziflow, once again from out here just south of Boston, Massachusetts. Let's go to the leftmost bubble and introduce my friend Michael. Mike.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Hrymak. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Ziflow. If you've had the pleasure of getting a product demo over the past 2 years, there's a pretty good chance I was the one that gave it to you. So I'm excited to show you some of the cool things that have been put in the platform over the past quarter. And with that, I'll send it over to John.
Hi, everyone. John Stetic here. I'm the head of product. Just recently joined over the last couple months into Ziflow, and really excited to present to you guys about some of the future things that we're going to be working on within.
Let's get into our agenda for today's webinar, shall we? We already did the intros. You know who we are. One of the things that I have noted about attending a lot of these webinars in the past, not necessarily at Ziflow, is just the absolute scattergun onrush of features. We don't want to do that here. We want to categorize the features that we've delivered and will be delivering and through the concept of themes. The first being updates to Ziflow's Dashboard 2.0. That's Ziflow 2.0 that we released this past summer that we're very excited about, and we have heard your feedback. So we are working on making major and sizable changes to the user experience that we'd love to share with you. Connectivity and portability. Your creative operations, your creative workflow does not exist in a vacuum. It connects to so many other tools. So we'll talk about some of the additional integrations and the features that we have updated over these past few weeks. Proof Viewer, it's our killer app. It's the crown jewel, and it is an amazing online proofing solution, and it has gotten better over these past few weeks. Love to tell you the story about that. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, particularly for those companies in very heavily regulated and scrutinized industries, data security and access controls. We'll get to that right before we bring in John Stetic to give us a sneak preview of a brand new features concept called Project Mosaic. We'll be answering your questions via the Zoom Q&A functionality. Keep in mind, use that Zoom Q&A if you have any questions for our panelists about any of our features, and we'll answer those live or on the air. And of course, we'll bring this in for a landing, hopefully around the bottom of the hour, or top of the hour, I should say, more information, and encourage you to be on the lookout for email notifications and socials about our next webinar. Michael, are you ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
Let's begin then. Our first theme, updates to Ziflow's Dashboard 2.0. Ziflow 2.0, something we delivered just this past summer with a great deal of fanfare, and we were so excited about it. But you know, as much as it was a finished product when we released it, we knew that we had to keep our ear to the ground and listen to users just like yourself and making sure that we were increasing and adding to the overall user experience within this revolutionary new creative operations dashboard. Michael, I think we should start going through some of those visual changes and user interface improvements that were almost entirely driven by our customers. Hey, certainly we have a few ideas of our own, but our customers were vocal in their feedback, and we'll show you some of those elements just right now. Mike, let's go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of great feedback about what Dashboard 2.0 was when it released, but of course there's things that bubble up, things that weren't part of Dashboard 2.0 that were in Dashboard 1.0. People have used that in the past, and we've taken that and applied it to overall just make the kind of navigation and the access to views inside of this dashboard just a much clearer and cleaner experience. So just a couple things I want to point off up the bat. I did share the actual Ziflow account now. I'm in here. And one thing I want to point out is this everything feature. So sometimes you just want to see every single review that you have access to in your dashboard with all filters applied or no filters applied. And so when you click into this everything section, you'll see everything you have access to. Proofs that have been approved, proofs that have been archived, so on and so forth. And then for those moments where maybe you want to see everything within a particular workspace or folder, we've now got this all kind of home button pin at the left of your views. When I click in there, I can see everything that's going on within that workspace or folder. So I can quickly get into maybe what I need to review or what's got a deadline coming up and so on.
Mike, that's a great note. I think one of the pieces of feedback we got about Dashboard 2.0 is that if someone sat 2-3 feet away from their computer screen, they may not know exactly where they are and in relation to their folders and the dashboard itself. So adding those little visual cues and the additional tab-like functionality gives them that place, like they always know how to get home because they literally click the house icon, right?
Exactly. I've always got the house icon to get back to where I work to. I always know where I'm at in the tool as well because we've done some hovering features as well as just like some visual cues as to what tab you're on and things like that. You know, even within these tabs, we've made it easier to get to the different views that are important to me. You know, within my favorite views, I can easily modify these now to create a new one. I don't have to duplicate a view to make a new view. I can just jump in here. I can add an additional filter to, and then I can just save this as a new view and get to work and have it on my tab. Even from there, when we go in to add additional views to our kind of layout, everything's prominently displayed right within my selection area, kind of ready to go.
And you've got those stars to indicate that these are sort of pins to my topmost bar there.
Exactly. Those are my favorite ones. I don't want to go digging through the trash. I just want to see what I own, what I need to review, maybe what's been completed, or any other custom view that I've set up.
So, Mike, I could conceivably create filtered views as much as I so choose, but I've got
Mhm.
one name of a file in my head that I want to look for. We've also improved our search
Yeah.
functionality as well.
Yeah. So the global search feature, that's going to let you search for pretty much anything within your reviews. Any page, any phrase you drop in there, it's going to search through the latest and previous versions. It's going to look through standard and custom fields, version names, file names, reviewers, kind of all the above. If I just drop in my colleague Chris's name, it's going to pull back any proof he was a part of or any file name I dropped in. I can find that in the global search across all versions or even just archive proofs as well.
I love it. So navigation is more than just tabs and search capabilities. It's also
Exactly.
the clickable area, like the
Yeah.
ability for me to have a fat finger situation on my trackpad and click on the thing that I want to click on. And when we rolled out Dashboard 2.0, we rolled out this amazing grid view. But
Mhm.
some of the feedback that we've heard about the thumbnails within grid view is that sometimes when you zoom in with that cropped thumbnail view, it's absent of context. You might be reusing the same imagery in multiple assets, but when it's cropped like this, you lack
Yeah.
that type of context. Tell us what we did to change that or adjust that in the minds of some users.
Yeah, I mean the clickable thumbnails, they're an essential way to navigate and identify what's within a proof, particularly within this grid view. If we have everything kind of displayed and out and ready to go. But we did hear some feedback that maybe that thumbnail box was a little too limiting. And so what we've added is in the settings, if I'm an admin, I can go into my proofing settings into this general section, and I've got this option to change the thumbnail aspect ratio from a crop to fit to that original aspect ratio. So if I turn that on, and we go back over this dashboard and hit a little refresh, we'll actually see it's going to display kind of the whole page for me within that thumbnail view.
So that makes a lot of sense. If my team is using that image of the skier flying through some fresh pow in multiple assets, if I am cropped in, they may all look the same to me, but here I can absolutely tell that that Ziflow proof with that same image is very clearly the
Yeah.
PDF. So if I have some rich media banners and stuff that use the same image, I'll
Yeah,
also tell with that original aspect ratio setting.
exactly. Right there for me. And even with just clicking into these proofs, we've changed some of the clickability on the screen. You know, if I'm looking at this iFlow proof and I want to get into the details, one click opens it up for me. I can start going through the workflow and seeing some of the settings and other options and activity that have happened. If I'm a power reviewer and I want to get through all four of these assets quickly, I just double click. That's going to open the proof up for me as well in its own window. So I can go and see what this skier is getting through in the powdery snow in the background as well.
So, like I said, the original design of Ziflow 2.0 or Dashboard 2.0 was a click and then another click on a different button. And that, in some of our customers' minds, would cause a little bit of cognitive dissonance. Here, we have
Yeah.
heard that feedback, and we've made it that much easier to say, hey, I'm clicking once. I want to open the review details panel, proof
Yeah.
details panel. Double click, open proof viewer so I can start to review this. I love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about something that evolved from the original application of Dashboard 2.0 to now where
Yeah.
we are today, an updated stage column.
Yeah. So we changed the look and feel of the stage column within your views in the Ziflow dashboard. So previously it looked like this. You'd have one small icon for, each stage. It'd be S1, shaded green for complete, and so on and so forth. But with this update, we've added the custom display names. We've added the stage names to each stage as well as some information about upcoming deadlines. So if I flip over to my list view, what I now see is, hey, this technical review's been signed off on. The copy review's good. Now we're in legal and compliance, and I know it's due in 19 hours. So some of those like much needed context and at a glance details about each proof, I have right away so I can make sure I'm on top of how it's progressing through its approval process.
I've still got the green light, yellow light, red light in my brain,
Yeah.
but now I've got one extra row of text that gives me an
Yeah.
idea about what that stage actually is and when it's actually due.
Yeah, that was something I think people missed a lot from Dashboard 1.0. So those of you maybe that have not taken the jump to Dashboard 2.0 yet because of that particular feature, that along with a number of other upgrades we've made to it, I think really will help people get accustomed to and used to using this new dashboard experience.
This new stage column provides much needed context for a creative operations manager as they're taking a look at the different stages that a proof may be going through. Let's talk a little about the context that can be added by having an accurate file display name, particularly during the course of a batch review. We work with quite a few enterprise customers that have a very specific nomenclature to their files. It's a 3-letter code separated by an underscore, and then a location where this will be displayed separated by an underscore, and then perhaps a 2-letter, language designation separated by an underscore. So that coding to some reviewers may be lost on them. It might be like speaking a different language. So with the ability to change the display name for a batch review makes it that much more contextually oriented to a reviewer themselves.
Yeah. So for those batch reviews, when I'm looking at the file name, I see it in the reviewer. If I see something that's maybe a little bit more complex or not very unique, it could be confusing, like you mentioned. And so what we now have the ability to do is when I drop in the multiple files to create a batch review, I can actually click in here and just change the file name that's going to appear. And so that's not actually changing the file name of the asset. If I download it and take it away, it'll retain that original, really important coding on the file. But at least within the proof viewer, it's going to be a little bit more specific and unique. And I know I always maybe fire off a proof a little bit too quick, and I didn't change up all the settings. So if you do forget to change that, you can at least click in here, go into the files, and still make that adjustment later on.
And once again, those are the display names only. So when you download those original files, they will retain their original file names, or if they're exported, automatically into your cloud storage platform. And one thing about this feature, and this is a perfect opportunity to make mention of, the ability to change asset names within a batch review will be available in our next or our upcoming release coming just next week. So this is very much a sneak preview of things you're about to see.
Yeah.
Let's jump to another sneak preview of something you're about to see planned for next month in March, something we call expanded stages. As a sort of a creative operations person, or at least I aspire to be one myself, I know that I can create proofs very, very easily within Dashboard 2.0, particularly if they have a workflow template or a workflow that's of a simplistic nature. I can use the minimalist views and select a deadline if I have one, or change a due date if I need to. But there are a lot of folks, particularly those power users on Dashboard 1.0, that want to be able to see all of those available settings available to them all at once, because they know they're going to have to create a workflow with some level of complexity. So Mike, we've added an expanded stages button that will be available.
Yeah, another huge one. I think people are really comfortable with the Dashboard 1.0. We can now have this expanded stages view, where when I open this up, I can see all of the details of what's going to happen with this proof. I can adjust them all in one window. I don't have to click on the small icon. It's listed out for me. So it could be me creating a brand new workflow and wanting to customize the settings, or just quickly validating that everything's correct before I fire off that template. And even within this new Dashboard 2.0 feature of seeing the workflow in here, we can still leverage that with those expanded stages open, so that we have full visibility into the entire workflow process and all settings that are being applied to it.
I love it. Like I said, that will be available at some point in March. We're anticipating not this coming release, but the release afterwards. Very excited for this feature. And once again, as Mike mentioned, this is something that I think a lot of folks that were, stayed on Dashboard 1.0 were excited to see eventually revealed within 2.0, and it will be here at some point in March. Mike, let's jump back to the slideware momentarily, if you don't mind. We will go through another one of the elements that I think was really important. It came out just after the 1st of January, which is how Ziflow will automatically optimize your dashboard environment by treating the word trash as the dictionary intends it. If you don't want your proofs and you want to put them in the trash, Ziflow will automatically purge those proofs after 30 days from having been in the trash. We've done quite a bit of communication about this. We know that a great deal of admins are very well aware of this. But again, bears reiterating, it's going to make it easier for you to navigate your environment and look through all of the potential proofs that exist, because if you mark them as trash, they'll just disappear after 30 days. John, I want to bring you in just for a second and take you off of mute. We are, developing Dashboard 2.0 very much as the future for creative operations managers using our software. And part of that initiative is eventually start to move things, reach a level of parity with Dashboard 1.0 so those people can feel comfortable switching, but eventually start to develop features that are Dashboard 2.0 exclusive. Can we talk a little bit about expanded roles?
Sure, yeah. So one of the things that we've heard was, how do we make it faster to fill out a lot of these proofs, as you just saw in the demo for actually creating all the settings of the proof. The other piece that we heard was, we want to be able to have an at-glimpse view of what people's roles are in those individual proofs. So who's got comment, who's got decision, who's got share capabilities. And right now you have to sort of read each line. So coming up within the next 30 days, we're going to have some changes there where be a set of check marks. So just at a quick glance, you'll be able to see which role people have on individual proofs and what permissions that they actually have.
Another thing that we'd like to develop for Dashboard 2.0 is the ability to export proof data to CSV and Excel. We already have the ability to export a whole host of whether it be users or other information to those file formats. This is something that is going to be unique to 2.0 and additional information coming from those proofs. Is that right, John?
Yeah, that's right. So we're really expanding what you're going to be able to export through the CSV export. Instead of just getting a list of proofs, you're going to be able to get a list of proofs, different versions, different commenters, even the comments are all going to be able to be exported. So you're going to get multiple CSV files that give you a full view of the entire data set. So it allows you to be able to start to do some analytics on it, be able to get additional data that you might want to query out. It is important to note that this functionality will be available on Dashboard 2.0. So as some of these new features start to be getting built, they're going to be built on Dashboard 2.0. So of course, we encourage more people to be shifting to Dashboard 2.0.
Ziflow is the only enterprise-grade collaborative proofing platform. If you search us on G2, Capterra, or TrustRadius, you will find we're in the online proofing vertical. So we have heard your feedback. We've heard the industry's feedback, and we're going to move all mention of the word review as it exists within Dashboard 2.0 back to the original term d'art, which is proof. So that is coming in our February 24th, our upcoming release. You will see that the new review button, let's say, will now say new proof, mirroring what you may see in Dashboard 1.0, but also mirroring how the industry speaks about what it is that we do. Something to keep in mind for our 2.24 release. Mike, why don't we go on to the next slide, if you don't mind? Connectivity and portability. I think we all know that creative process does not exist in a vacuum, as we mentioned at the top during our agenda. You may be developing a project in your project management platform. You are conversing with your constituents within your communications tools. And then, of course, you'll eventually want to deposit final files where they're supposed to be. And those are oftentimes in your cloud storage platforms or digital asset management tools. Mike, we did quite a bit of work over these past few months.
Yeah.
Really sprucing up, improving, strengthening our Google Drive integration as well as our SharePoint integration. Let's talk through a little bit of those things.
Yeah. I mean, it's so important for these files that we work on are in the correct location, not just in Ziflow, but also in a Google Drive folder that a client can go and pull it out of, or a SharePoint folder or library that our team's going to collaborate within. And so within Ziflow itself, we've added a number of Zybots or activity triggers to the tool to help support that. So within SharePoint, we can do things like search for a SharePoint file or create a new SharePoint folder. In Google Drive, we can now go ahead and upload a file to Google Drive, something that, historically we weren't able to actually do. We could drop a file into a Google Drive folder and create a proof. Now we can do the opposite of that and send it back over to Google once it's been approved or once it's been loaded into the tool. Just as a little example of what could be possible, when I go to create a new review here and I just drag in this image really quickly, this will go ahead and, of course, create a proof. It'll invite in all of my reviewers that I've added as a stage 1 reviewer and send on the invite. Maybe update the Asana task that I've connected it to. But additionally, once this is done processing, we'll actually see over here in this Google Drive folder a new proof or a new file get added to it. So this should be wrapped up. We can click over, and in a second here, we'll see this get dropped in. So there's that adventure image we just loaded into Ziflow. Now back actually on the proof, if I go into this integrations pane, which if you haven't played around in here yet, this is a great space for us to be able to connect to tasks or an Asana or Slack channel, but it's also gone ahead and dropped in some information about the file that I just loaded in. Now, the end of the proof, we go through all the approval stages, we get everybody sign off, we ultimately make a decision of approved on here, and I check off some of the boxes. What this is going to do is jump into this SharePoint folder, and it's going to send the file that we just approved in Ziflow to that kind of final resting place, this Mike Hrymak demo folder, which I think if I refresh, we should see it in here now. There we go. Just moving the files along from one place to the next. Use your creativity or your processes in place and how you might want to help that, but we're definitely here to support that flow.
Final resting place. That's pretty dark.
Just thought of that one. I don't love it, but yeah.
But what I will say, I think that's really interesting, that if your creative team is using Google Drive to make sure that you're keeping track of various versions, but your sales team or your customer success team is using SharePoint, there's a world where you can have that two-pronged digital asset management platform solution. I think you just showed that off right there. Exactly. The other thing I want to call attention to the fact is, Google Drive is folders on folders on folders, whereas Microsoft SharePoint thinks of itself as a bit more of a, web-based digital asset management, almost like your team's website. And they have a concept of a library, a top-level tier of a hierarchy. Ziflow's integration gives you the ability to search for folders within a library, create a folder within a library, search for files within a folder, create a file within a folder. So you've got that additional layer that exists within SharePoint that, perhaps other tools can't support. We've built that into the API connection that we have with Microsoft SharePoint. So good stuff there.
Yeah, I think
go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
I think we were probably going to say the same thing, the updates to the Slack integration as well.
Well, yeah, I was just going to call attention to the fact you're in Ziflow Connect right now, and you're actually looking at building a potential new flow, and you can see all of these different newish Slack icons, particularly the Ziflow app to a private channel and send to a Slack channel. Let's talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons to have private Slack channels, a rebrand, a board directors deck that we're putting together, and we hadn't up until this point been able to send proofs to those private channels, and we've updated that. Not only can we add the Ziflow app to the private channels, but we can also start posting updates to it. So for example, I've got this Ziflow private channel mic I've created in my account. You can see the apps in here, and hey, there's that update that was sent when this new proof was added to my Ziflow account. By the way, thank you all again for joining our quarterly release webinar. But we can now point to specific team members' email addresses. We have support for private channels. It's all about just, again, making sure notifications are routed to the place where the people actually need to see them. So
that's interesting. That actually message just happened when you uploaded that adventure image.
Yeah.
At 12:23 p.m. So, these things are happening in real time. And again, the update here is that we now have the ability to do this within private channels, which, as you mentioned, depending on the size of your team, you may have smaller sub-teams that require additional layers of confidentiality. And that's where private channels become that much more important. Yeah. The name of this theme is not just connectivity, it's portability. So the ability to connect with other apps is incredibly important, but also be able to take some of the collaborative efforts you've engaged in inside Ziflow, take it out of Ziflow, and continue that collaboration onward down the line. Let's talk about exporting PDFs and the ability to view comments that were left within Ziflow inside Adobe Acrobat or other PDF readers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think people who have been using Ziflow, you're well aware of the functionality of being able to create a proof report. So generating an export of this version or all versions with thumbnails, something that looks like this, where I can see what decisions have been made and where the feedback lives on the proof. But we've been asked for a while to say, hey, can you just export these comments to a PDF? Because maybe my regulatory team needs to look at it this way, or maybe this client that I'm using has to see it this way. And so what we can now do is when I'm in here, instead of creating that PDF proof report, I can create a PDF with comments. So when I open it up in Acrobat, it's going to go ahead and look as if it is an Acrobat document with PDF comments, but it has that metadata of who added the comment and when within there.
Amazing. Very, very cool stuff. Let's get over to the rest of our slideware here so we can talk through the remaining areas of connectivity and portability that we developed in winter of 2024. As you can see, we've rolled out some updates to our monday.com integration, allowing more robust approach, particularly when a lot of our customers who are using Monday have very well configured their Monday instance. So being able to search for and populate custom column IDs, really important, something we rolled out just earlier this year. We've made an update to our NetSuite integration to include that custom project ID. And if you're like me and upgraded your hardware from an Intel-based Mac to a Apple Silicon-based Mac, you're also going to want to update your Adobe Photoshop plugin. And now every single one of our plugins or extensions for Adobe is now available for both Intel-based Macs and Apple Silicon-based Macs. That is connectivity and portability. We're about halfway through our features to show you, and then I promise I'll shut up and let John talk about the sneak preview of Project Mosaic. But first, Proof Viewer. Like I mentioned, it is the jewel in our crown. It is the best online proofing solution, and don't just ask me for my opinion on it. Ask G2, Trust Radius, Capterra, and it has gotten better over these past few weeks. Let's jump right into Proof Viewer, Mike, and talk about how if you're a trackpad user like myself, it is much easier to be able to navigate within Proof Viewer without getting lost inside the void of the canvas itself.
Yeah, there's been a few updates. Obviously, the Proof Viewers have been a really good experience for our customers. This is our bread and butter, as you said. But we've made some slight changes just to make sure you're navigating around the page a little bit smoother and a little bit easier. For one, our trackpad users, you can now zoom in on a point. So you have your pointer on this guy's goggles here. You can zoom right in on there, get a very close look. Improved text selection's been added to this as well. I've got a couple columns in here. If I want to add that comment and just grab this column of text, I can hold down the shift button and bring that directly into my comment button on the right-hand side. Additionally, some improved scrolling behavior. We've kind of installed basically these walls to prevent you from getting lost within the large canvas of your commenting environment. There's like artificial boundaries. So if I actually scroll all the way up, we'll still see the PDFs kind of listed there. I can't go any further, can't scroll any further side to side. I'm not going to lose the asset if I accidentally zoomed out to 10% and then threw it around because of my trackpad. Erik, I know that's a problem that's plagued you in the past.
I'm an idiot. I've literally lost the PDF proof in the middle of this void multiple times. So I'm so glad we've introduced these boundaries to prevent me from being a danger to myself and others. That's scrolling and zooming. One thing I would be remiss to not mention is the commenting interface itself received quite a few upgrades, and frankly, it looks a little bit more like Slack or Teams, or even commenting or threading, within a social network. The user avatars are there, and the names are a bit bigger. We still have the comment ID numbers and how long ago they were left, but there's a bit more. It's almost a bit more conversational. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, and that was the goal with the update. This is a pretty significant improvement towards really providing a cleaner, more collaborative, more colleague-centric environment. The layouts of the comments and replies have been streamlined. If I click in and see the active comments, it kind of distinguishes it a bit more from maybe the inactive comments that aren't relevant. We've also increased the contrast and between active and inactive comments. We made it easier to differentiate what you need to focus on in relevant discussions. And we've also updated the typeface and font size just to improve some readability on here. As you pointed out with the avatars as well, there's two things that have changed there. So one, the avatars are a little bit larger than they were before, just to distinguish who it is that's adding the comment. Additionally, we are now generating colors for users that haven't added an avatar. So you can see down here, I've dropped in a picture of, I think that was me on a trip to Amsterdam with my wife a few years ago. But Chris here and Carol here have their own colors now that have generated. This could be a guest reviewer. It could be a colleague that just hasn't taken the 10 seconds to drop an avatar in. But now I know that anytime it's a blue CC, it's from Carol. Anytime it's a red CC, it's from Chris. And that's going to be standard for them across their Ziflow proofing experience. They've been assigned that color.
I love it. I know that depending on your team structure, you may have a group of internal creative team members, and you may have external stakeholders that are collaborating on the same review. And purely from a security perspective, we've added a setting to make the default comment type, whether it be when I'm clicking to add a new comment, to be private by default as opposed to public, to sort of spare the blushes in case you accidentally let loose a piece of feedback that was not necessarily meant for public view.
Yeah, if you are leveraging public and private comments within a proof stage, I mean, you can distinguish pretty easily what's going to be private versus public just based on the shading and the little toggle here. But within the admin settings, if you think it makes more sense to have private be the default, so there's no risk of something slipping out on accident because you hit enter too quick, you can go in here, you can go into the proofing settings under comments, and you can now set that default comment visibility to be public or private, just depending on what makes most sense for your team.
Let me get back into Proof Viewer just for a second, Mike, and talked a bit about color there, about shading. One big thing that we had adjusted within these past few months is the colors within Compare Mode. Compare Mode itself got a bit of a spruce up, particularly as it pertains to where the dividing line sits and how bold those colors are. Let's show off a little bit of that before we move on to theme number 4.
Yeah. So in compare mode previously, the screen would split 50-50 between a new and a previous version, which after we kind of took a step back, we realized it didn't really make sense because that new version doesn't either have comments yet or their feedback's not as relevant. We want to see what was verified or what we need to verify from the previous version. So when I launch in the compare mode, we see it's going to provide a little bit more real estate for me on the right-hand side. It's going to open up that comment panel, of course, so I can go through and just validate this feedback and make sure it was accurately applied. Additionally, as you mentioned with the shading for the auto compare mode, the previously muted shades that are used to identify what's been adjusted and what's changed, we've made them bolder, we've made them brighter, and overall just more noticeable to the naked eye within here. So slight changes, but something that from a user like me who I always forget my feedback from version 1, it's easier to pick up and validate those changes that have occurred.
I'll tell you what, that magenta color looks good on you, Mike, and it looks really good on this auto compare PDF because it definitely pops off the page.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to theme number 4, which is data security and access controls. As I mentioned at the top, this may not be the sexiest set of features, but again, for those in healthcare, pharmaceuticals, CPG, data security is of the utmost importance. So let's start with security by, getting it into somebody's brain that they shouldn't be screen capturing what they see within Ziflow's viewer. It is video watermarking capabilities.
Yeah. So this one came out, I think, the middle of last month. And this now allows you to very easily add a watermark to your video proof. So gives you that added layer of security and customization for the creative assets you're putting in here. Now, within the settings, under proofing settings for admins, video watermark right there, what we can do is either upload our own image or just add text and choose the position of where this text is going to be. You can adjust the opacity and everything like that. And when you do apply it to that video proof, it'll just display over the video for your team to see, for your team not to be able to maybe pull away.
So we're not actually editing the video. We're not embedding a watermark in the video itself. It's simply, once it's been uploaded into Ziflow, it's displaying that way. If you download the original file, no watermark.
Exactly. So keep that in mind. If you're going to be using that download original file setting, you probably want to turn that off if you're leveraging video watermarks. But for this now allows the screen caps, pullaways. If you're putting your brand new Super Bowl ad through here, you need that watermark on. You can embed it on the file without actually, or the video in Ziflow without actually having to add it to the file.
Next year, man, Ziflow Super Bowl ad. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into access controls. We've talked about data security purely from a visual perspective. Let's talk about actually making sure people are who they say they are when they get into the platform through two-factor authentication.
Yeah, I mean, we added two-factor authentication early last year to Ziflow, but we've now introduced an option that lets admins enforce two-factor authentication. So you can make it a requirement. Now, we can make the initial rollout of this feature a little bit smoother. So you can actually set it to be required after the 3rd or 4th or 5th login. But you can now at least control whether people do have to set up two-factor authentication or not. And you can also allow users to trust their device for 30 days or not. So I know I hate having to pull open the phone and open up the code thing to drop it in. We can allow people to have that 30-day grace period with trusted devices within the tool as well.
Make it a little bit easier for your team, but while also retaining the level of security that you need as an organization. That's great.
Yeah.
Let's finish up this theme with some more slideware. First things first, the ability to have additional security settings within Ziflow's viewer. So if you are a reviewer and you're click a link and perhaps you're not really logged in, but you did receive the email and you see the new proofs to review, we're going to ask you to confirm your right to access those proofs by emailed authentication codes. We rolled that out just a few weeks ago, just in early January. A new warning and proof notification emails. It's a cosmetic thing, but I think it makes a big difference when you see within a proof notification email that this link is meant only for you, reviewer, and for nobody else. So don't forward this on. Don't copy paste the link. That little indicator, I think, is going to drive a lot of people to protect themselves and protect those links for their own usage. One thing I'm excited to announce today: Ziflow is ISO 27001 certified. As many of you may know, particularly if you've gone through a implementation or procurement process recently, Ziflow is SOC 2 Type 2 certified. We are now ISO 27001 certified as well. We are built to an exceedingly high data security standard, and we believe with both ISO 27001 and SOC 2 Type 2, we are the most secure collaborative proofing platform on the planet, and we are excited to announce that today. Let's move forward into our product sneak peek. Again, the thing perhaps many of you have been waiting for, a little bit of a look at what happens next within Ziflow. It's something we are thrilled to talk through. John Stetic, head of product. Let's take it away.
Great, thanks, Eric, and thanks everyone for all the great questions. I know we've been answering them as we go, and more in the Q&A when we finish up here. So what I want to talk about here is really a collection of features that go into streamlining your creative ops flow for collections of assets, and especially when you're reviewing across internal and external reviews and teams. So today in the product, we've got lots of capabilities to help with groups of product or groups of assets, whether it's the batch review capability that many of you are familiar with, being able to just create one proof with lots of different assets in it. Sometimes the challenge with that, though, is that you can approve the entire proof, and each individual asset doesn't have approvals on it. Another capability that we have is folder shareable links. So if you have a number of assets setting in a folder, you're able to take a link from that and then go share it out into your users. So you can put it in an email, put it in a message, and send that link out. But it's not really connected into the overall workflow. One other really powerful feature that a number of our customers use, especially when you're dealing with internal and external reviews, is this concept of major and minor versions. So major versions are for external reviews, minor versions are for internal reviews. So there's a number of really interesting building blocks that we have within the product to help you create a more seamless review experience, especially when you're reviewing collections of related assets. That being said, of course, there's always opportunity for ongoing improvement, and we get lots of different feedback from our users. So these are some real snippets from people. The faces have been changed to protect the innocent, as it were. But just a couple of things to call out here. So the team's looking at the shareable folder and how that could be used to share a batch of separate proofs with external reviewers, or being able to replace a single asset within a batch with better version things. Create a batch proof where you can navigate between different proofs, so it's super quick to jump between different proofs. How can we give clients the individual approvals within different assets? So lots of different themes within this overall set of capabilities. And so what we've tried to do is think about solving this problem holistically. And what are the collection of capabilities and features that we would want to put together to solve this product, or to solve this problem more holistically, as I said. And this now leads to our internal code name of what we call Project Mosaic. So Project Mosaic's got three main goals. The first is to make it easier to manage and review a set of proofs. The second is it gives you the ability to have unique versioning and approvals on assets within groups. It also does a little bit to streamline the notifications for multiple proof projects. Ultimately, what we want to do is give you the ability for your reviewers to see everything, approve anything, while still giving you the control you need to manage your process. A couple different use cases where this can work really nicely. So if you've got variant reviews, so maybe you've got banners of different sizes, or you're reviewing assets with different languages, or maybe you've got multi-channel campaigns. So you've got different media that's going out to different channels, but it's all related to the same campaign, and you want to see everything together and approve things all together. Multi-page documents. We've got lots of customers who build big catalogs or multi-page docs that need to have individual approvals on each pages and versioning of individual pages. Or maybe it's simply you've done a large photo shoot and you've got 1,000 photos and you want to be able to select the ones that you want. You want a quick way to be able to accept and reject photos. So lots of different use cases where this can be applied to. So what I want to do is give you a little bit of a sneak peek. Now, why do I have this fancy concept car from Mercedes-Benz showing on the screen here? It's because we're all familiar with this idea of a concept car. It's an idea of the future. It's a glimpse of the future. What ends up in production doesn't always necessarily look like the concept car, but it gets you thinking about these different ideas. And so what I want to do is take you through this concept prototype that we have for Project Mosaic. So let's actually jump right into the demo here and get us started off here. So very familiar, Ziflow, you guys have seen it all. Of the proofs here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a new project. Now, project is a term that we're introducing to act as a collection of proofs, whether we call it projects, collections, groups, lots of different terms that we could use here. But for the sake of this prototype demo, we're going to call it a project. And you can have various types of projects. So let's jump right into one of the most requested features, which is this idea of asset by asset approval. So if we go into the catalog view here, this is a great way to demonstrate this. So maybe you've got a 100-page catalog and you want to be able to upload a number of pages and have those reviewed. So I'm going to create this and I'm going to switch over really quickly into the reviewer mode. So a review that you're already pretty familiar with. You've got your assets down the side here. But in this case, each of these pages is an individual proof, but it's treated all as one thing. So you can, of course, jump between the different pages and you can approve and reject each individual page. Of course, you can still jump in and comment on it and so forth. So it's bringing you a different way to view and interact with a set of proofs. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Let's now talk about how did we go through that? How do we actually do that process? So let's take the approach of looking at, maybe you've got various types of proofs. This is more of the multi-channel campaign usage. So I'm going to go create a project here. So now I have a blank canvas. You can see I've got a project here that's created. I'm going to just drag and drop a few of my assets in here. You can see I've got pictures, I've got a video, I've got maybe a PDF included in here, and I've also got a folder of files here. You can see what stages they're in. These happen to be all following a similar workflow. Our idea is you don't necessarily have to have unique workflows, but when you create the first project, everybody can start with a common workflow and then evolve from there. So now let's step through this process a little bit. So it's gone through the internal check. A lot of those have approved. In some of the stages, some of the assets are moving onto the stakeholders check onto those other stages. Now, in a lot of cases, when you're working with external teams, there's some cases where you want to override the workflow and just get that data out to the external reviewers because everyone's, yep, okay, we're signed off, but everyone hasn't necessarily checked it off in the product. So what we're looking at is how do we introduce the ability for you to control the flow of the individual proofs in a little bit more of a structured fashion. You can see here we've got this tag now applied to this state, and so now, or to this stage. And so now what I can do is I can actually start the external review. So I'm taking all of these assets in the project, and now I'm moving them forward into the next stage of the process. So you can see all of these other stages go green, and now all of the assets have been pushed forward into the client review process. So now let's switch perspectives a little bit and look at it from the reviewer's view. Here we've got our review notification that's come up. You'll notice that this is a single project notification that you get. So instead of getting individual notifications for each individual proof, someone gets a notification that this project is ready to review. So let's jump in and actually go and review it. This is now the updated viewer that you can see here with some common table view where you can see all the assets that you have listed. One thing to call out too is this idea of a project brief. So instead of having to brief at the asset level, we'll also be able to have it at the project level because this is a brief that is meant to encompass something more holistic. So this is a view that we're pretty used to seeing already. So now what I want to do is actually introduce the grid view. For those of you that are familiar with using our folder shareable links, this is maybe something that you've seen before with a couple key additions. One is you've got actually things that are, you've actually list the status here, which means now you can change the status of individual proofs here, and you'll even be able to change things in bulk. So now you can see I've grabbed two different proofs here, and I can actually make a decision on these in bulk. Now, you also notice I have this folder here. So what happens if I flatten these folders? The idea is we want to allow everyone to see everything. So being able to flatten these folders to give you groupings of proofs so then you can approve in bulk across different folders. Quite a powerful capability. So now the next thing I want to take us to is the board view. This is something that we consider to be pretty exciting, and we've got some great early feedback on it and would love to hear more. This idea of how can we take all of your assets and show them up on a board, similar to maybe what you did back in the day where you'd pin things up on a wall. Now you can do this virtually and be able to, move through all of your proofs. You can drill into each individual proof, of course, comment as you might usually do it, and very rapidly move between different proofs within the overall project itself. Even being able to bring up this sort of lightbox view along the side here, where you can quickly navigate between different proofs, and of course be able to approve and reject them as well. So now, one last thing to just flip over back to our board view here. This is an example of a multi-channel campaign. Maybe this is more an example of a digital ad campaign that you want to run, and you've got different sizes of banners that you want to display. Being able to see these all in one place can be really, really powerful. And of course, finally, being able to approve all these at one time. So being able to see right at this board view, being able to see what the approval status and allow people to approve and reject. So this gives you lots of different ways for your reviewers to be able to work through the review process, allowing them to review things a lot faster and be able to work with large groups of those assets faster. So I just covered a ton of information. Let me just do a quick little recap. So first off, for reviewers, three main things: this ability to approve bulk or separately from these visual views, being able to have this new board view to help your reviewers see the whole project, and then also being able to see the contents of subfolders. So your folders become more of groupings, but don't necessarily be a limit for what people can see at one time. Another quick highlight on the creative ops side. So for those people managing the projects, this concept of a project, a collection of proofs that you're able to manage as one unit. As well, project level notifications, simplifying the noise that can sometimes get created in larger projects, especially in high frequency environments. As well as this concept of sort of external stages, or the ability to tag different stages so you can force a group of proofs through the workflow more effectively. So lots of great capabilities here. Super quick preview of what we're thinking about. Again, this is all concept. These are all early prototypes. And that really takes us to our next stage. If this is something that you're interested in, Nick's going to pull up a poll because we love our real-time feedback. And so if we can have the poll up and, hey, are you actually interested in this? Is there something here that you think looks interesting to you? If so, click sign me up for the early access program. So this early access program, we'll leave the poll up on the screen for a moment here. This really allows you to be able to get some influence on how we develop this project. Feel free to scan this QR code if you like, and there's actually the sign up form. We just ask a couple questions so we can better understand your environment. But if you're working with external clients or teams, or you're working with multiple related proofs, or do you need this concept of page and asset level approval, if you've answered yes to any of those things, then you could be a great candidate for this early access program. And we'd love to then get in touch with you, talk to you a little bit more, and get you more involved in the development of this collection of new features. All right. Thank you very much. And I'm going to now turn things back to Erik.
John, I got to tell you, I'm pretty stoked about that. As I mentioned, I myself think of myself as a creative operations manager myself, and being able to create entire projects worth. I think about things as epics, and that is very, very exciting. John messaged us, Scott messaged us, big fans of what they see here. Hopefully, John, Scott, and others who have commented to us in the chat or in the Q&A, scan that QR code or click the link within the webinar chat to sign up for early access. Let's start by taking a question. We started our presentation today talking about Dashboard 2.0 and the changes that we have made that are making it that much better to our legacy dashboard, Dashboard 1.0. And one of those questions was, how do I know that I'm using Dashboard 2.0? Mike, you want to jump in and grab control of John's screen here?
Yeah.
go through and confirm for those of you who are with us that what you're using is Dashboard 2.0.
Yeah, well, I think the most obvious way to recognize that you're not using Dashboard 2.0 is that if anything you saw today didn't look familiar. So for those of you that are using Dashboard 1.0 or don't quite think you're on Dashboard 2.0, actually, let me go into this account here and I can switch back to the old layout. When I'm in this board and I see, hey, this doesn't look like what Mike and John just showed today, what I can do is click on my either my colored logo or the avatar that I uploaded before, and I can switch to Ziflow 2.0. If for some reason you're not seeing this option, you'll need to go into your settings. Hopefully you're an admin. You can go into the general settings here and allow for users to switch between the dashboard experiences. And you can even make Dashboard 2.0 the default experience. So again, if you're looking at this board and you think, wow, Mike showed some awesome features, let me get that. Click on your name, switch to Ziflow 2.0, and you're in there.
Well, that seems easy. I'm going to ask a question directly to John. We had a guest, Glenn, ask us, will the Mosaic features, Project Mosaic features, only be available to enterprise users?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're early in the stage of development here in terms of where some of these features are going to fall. I've shown a broad collection of features that will be rolling out over time. Some of those may land in Pro and Standard packages. Some of those may land in Enterprise. We're still working on which features will end up going where. What we're really focused on right now is how do we net together that great solution and a cohesive set of features that can help you solve the problems. Then we're going to start to get into some of the packaging and pricing items for it.
John, that was a bit of a fastball. Let me throw you a bit of a change up here. Abby asks, I know the original layout of Ziflow is, very much a sort of a legacy a dashboard now. Will there be a point where it's removed completely? She's got a couple of users within her instance who do use the original still over 2.0.
Yeah, so my guidance here, we haven't set a full sunset date for version 1.0. What my guidance is, though, is that you should be encouraging your users over the course of 2024 to be switching. And that's why we've made a bunch of investments in Dashboard 2.0 to clean up some of the things that that people weren't as satisfied with when they were moving from 1 to 2. Expanded stages is a great example of that, the stage column. And as I also said, we're going to be adding new functionality to Dashboard 2.0. And so everything's going to be there moving forward. So I would say you should set your internal target by the end of the year to be migrated over to Dashboard 2.0, although we haven't formally set the sunset date, and it won't be set within this year.
Our friend Annalisa from Vista sends in a question. She loves all the Mosaic prototypes. That makes 2 of us. Is there a rough idea of the launch date? This is very much a 2024 preview. It's at some point within this year for some of these features, correct, John?
Yeah, definitely. And since it's a collection of capabilities here, and so they're going to be releasing over time. We have some early working prototypes of the board view. So if you are interested in that, we'd love to actually start to see real proofs up in those board views and sort of test some of the things that we're starting to do, if that's interesting to you. What I can say is, though, some of these features, as we stack them up, will start to roll out in the Q2 timeframe, but it will be an ongoing process across Q2, Q3.
Allison Blue writes, are there any plans to support uploads of Adobe PDFs with comments that can be imported as comments as well? I know we've kicked around this concept once we released the ability to export Ziflow comments as Acrobat comments. We're researching doing it in reverse. Is that right, John?
Yeah, that is right. Yeah, we do have that on the roadmap. We don't have it pinned as a date right now. We are collecting more details on it. It is starting to become a more commonly asked for functionality. And as we dig into the different use cases, we're seeing areas where people need it as an interchange between 2 systems. In some cases, they just have legacy users that want to be working in a PDF. Of course, we're always going to be encouraging people. Put your comments in Ziflow. It's a much better commenting and a much more collaborative experience than working with the PDF. But we also understand certain environments mean that you have to accept comments within PDF. So that is a feature that we are tracking, and we'll take all of these comments around PDF importing. I see support for Box. that will all go into our feature tracking system and start to, you know, raise the user impact of those types of features, the more requests that we get for them.
Mike, I think you have the joystick on the presentation here. I want to bring this in for a landing, given that we have about 2 minutes left in the hour. We've answered more than 40 questions today, but if you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact your customer support resource. Schedule a time to meet with us if you haven't yet already. If you're looking for a video recording of this webinar, look no further than Ziflow's YouTube channel, which is packed with informative materials, as well as some amazing customer stories and some pretty fun person-on-the-street videos that we've recorded at various creative operations events all over the world. And finally, it bears mentioning help.ziflow.com. That's help.ziflow.com, help.ziflow.com for our help center. Informative articles for each of these key features are available to read and share with your colleagues today. My name is Erik Mansur. I run product marketing for Ziflow on behalf of Mike Hrymak and John Stetic, and on the ones and twos, Nick Lanspa, and the man behind the curtain, Anthony Welgamode, who's been answering many of these questions. We want to thank you for attending our product release webinar here, winter 2024. Please be on the lookout. We're going to do this again sometime, very much in the spring, summer, and fall. So we would encourage you to attend when you do see those notifications come through. Mike, show the tagline, please. Let's go to the final slide. Here we go. Thank you so much for attending once again, and we will see you again later on this year.
Thanks, everyone.